Hi, I'm Bill Hare, and today we are here to talk about mastering. Mastering is a very misunderstood art, even by those of us who do it sometimes. We use a few basic tools, namely adjustable pliers, ball peen hammer, and for the really tough jobs, we use a infantry-issued hand grenade. So let's get started. So the term mastering actually comes from the old days when we were making records, and the master was the stamper that would press the vinyl records or Bakelite records back in the day. These were actually cut with a lathe, and the mastering engineer had to translate the format of audio from what would sound good on a tape where it started to what would sound good on a record. And they are very different things, required a very different EQ, required very different compression to make it sound natural on a record. If you used too much, I think got too loud, the needle would just jump right out of the record and it would skip. So there was a lot of very careful things that they needed to do. Later on, we moved to things like cassette or 8-track, and those would use a different type of mastering that's more similar to what we call mastering today, which is basically EQ, compression, and optimizing for tape-based things. And then we moved to CD, which had a whole different set of requirements and a whole different set of media to make such things. In the early days of CD, a lot of the time we were still using analog tape to do the master. Later on, we moved into digital formats such as this. This is the master I made in 1985 on the main format of the day, which is a PCM 1630. It's a 3/4 inch broadcast video cassette, but we used special converters to get the audio in and out. Later on, we moved to the DAT tape, which was much easier to deal with. It didn't need any special converters. And after that, we went into the computer and we're able to just use files. In the old days, of course, I used to do everything on analog equipment, and that was very difficult to reset or get things exactly the way they were if we needed to do one little tweak or something like that. Most of the time it just required starting everything over. So I've really become a big fan of working in the box, and as the quality of things have gotten better, I have started to not miss the analog aspects at all. And as you can see here, I've done pretty well with that. I've got the now double platinum Pentatonics album we did a couple years ago, and many other major label things I've been able to do using this particular system. So the main question right off the bat is, what is the difference between a mastered and an unmastered file? Usually when we do a mix, we are a bit more careful with our levels. We are just getting everything together, not really relating it to the other mixes or even the rest of the world's standards. The mastering is where we're going to kind of make everything come together with all of that. So here's an example of a track that I mixed before and after mastering. Of course, this will be very obvious because the volume is going to increase. So we'll start with that, and then we're going to move on to some of the other differences. So here I'll try to get the volumes a bit closer so that you can compare the other aspects. One aspect that people don't talk about a lot outside of actually doing this is imaging. And imaging is how you treat the sides of the mix, how you treat the middle of the mix, how you treat just the overall 3D effect of the sound itself. And if you listen for that alone, and I'm going to try now to balance the two. Hopefully you can hear things just clear up a little bit. The picture focuses, the mix widens a little bit. You'll also notice the mix gets taller. It gets brighter. It gets a little punchier. This again is focusing in with the multi-band compressor, for the most part, one of our main tools, which looks like this. And on top of that, I'm also going back to my analog days and using an analog tape emulator, which looks like this, which also will help just build the overall picture I'm looking for. There's a lot of technicalities and a lot of techniques and things like that go with this, but it's not something that you could just teach right away. But hopefully this will clear up what some of the processes are.
Alles war gut so.